Black male spirituality, back again with another message in the form of a reaction video. As always, I want to shout out all of my high vibrational, high value brothers. Also, want to send love to all the lovely high vibrational ladies who may be listening. So, today I wanted to talk about this video I've started to see go around. I'm sure it's going to go viral if it hasn't already. It's Sister Shahrazad Ali, and if you don't know who Shahrazad Ali is, look it up. Look her up on YouTube. There's a lot of great videos. She spoke a lot about the issues that we talk about today. Black male female relationships. The breakdown of the black family, all of that kind of stuff. And she set out her view on how we can change course in terms of all of that stuff and restore the black family and restore black marriages and all of that. Says a lot of great stuff, says some stuff I probably disagree with, and there's been certain things she said that was a little controversial, and it's interesting to think about that based off of this video we're going to react to. But a lot of good stuff. She was a big influence on, Black manosphere creators, people like Tommy Sotomayor, people like Kevin Samuels, people like O'Shea Duke Jackson. O'Shea actually reacted to this video earlier today or yesterday. But a great figure. She was more back in the 80s, 90s. So, for a long time, people weren't really talking about her, but she's kind of seen a little bit of a resurgence due to Black manosphere creators and people like Kevin and Tommy. Although she in this video clip, denies that, but we're gonna get into it. She also talks about modern segs trends, to use a YouTube friendly word. And those things I disagree with there. And then there's some other things she says that, again, I think is an example of how we as Black people really need to be careful of our low vibrations. Understandably, we've been through racism, discrimination, all of that, police brutality. Black men, have received the brunt of that. We've had Black men falsely accused by white women, whatever the case may be. But, we as a people, we need to be more focused on bringing positivity into our community and working on our community. Other people have their communities. White people have their communities, Hispanics, otherwise. Everybody has a right to have their community and family. Obviously, there's a place for talking about, what other groups of people have done to us, but we can't let our anger and hate consume us in that way, because that's not going to help us. We're only going to hurt ourselves and, cause problems in the larger society, really. All this white hate and stuff like that. I understand it, but, it's counterproductive and it's not necessary. But at any rate, those are kind of just the overview of the things that Sister Shahrazad Ali speaks about. Again, shout out to Shahrazad Ali. I don't agree with her fully, including in this video, but she's a great figure, and I would recommend people to read her work, watch video clips of speeches she's given. But at any rate, let's go ahead and share the screen. And we're going to click on the clip. Full screen ahead.
From what I understand, you spoke to Kevin Samuels numerous times, and he acknowledged your work as being an inspiration for his views about relationships in our community, right? Um, did you agree with Kevin Samuels' approach?
No, I didn't agree with Kevin Samuels. He agreed with me, and he was always so respectful to me. And we were getting ready to do something though. We were going to do a big thing in Atlanta, and then he went and died. So I guess that wasn't supposed to happen. But Kevin.
So I'm going to stop it right there. Again, much respect to Sister Shahrazad Ali. Again, she's a great figure, influenced Black people in a positive way, I think. But right there, she goes ahead and is a little arrogant in that clip, which, as a woman who, preaches femininity and submission to Black men, I think that's not a good look. Kind of just like, oh, well, he didn't really he really didn't help my work or further my message. He agreed with me. There's a bit of arrogance there, sister, with the good sister. And again, she's much older than me. She's a mother, I believe, a grandmother as well. And then the way she, kind of laughed is like, oh, well, he went up and died on me. And it's just like, I don't think his daughter or his mother would be laughing right now. And certainly none of his fans, and it's kind of bothersome to me that she even acknowledged that Kevin Samuels was always respectful to her. I mean, he spoke very highly of her and wanted to work with her. And to just laugh like that, again, that's not a good look, especially as a woman who wants to encourage other women to have more respect for black men. So again, no disrespect to the sister. And and let me put in something I agree with. I don't agree with how Kevin approached everything. I think some of the stuff he did for comedic value with the sound effects and like the I mean, ha ha ha. But it's understandable when some of the women were being rude. But I think there are times when women called in, and I'm gonna do some Kevin reactions soon. But there's sometimes when women came in, I think he was a little overly harsh. And I think there's a way to be firm with someone without being rude or disrespectful and putting them down. And she's going to touch on that a little bit here. So we're going to continue the clip.
The book woke him up, and it gave him the courage to discuss and address these things since I had did it and had put out the blueprint. And so he was a bit crude. I had told him I didn't think he would be successful because of how he was going about it. But he told it the way he saw it, and he was not successful. He was successful in his platform, getting hundreds of thousands of people, 3, 4, 500,000 people were, tuning in to hear him and his comments. But I don't know. I'm sure it benefited some of the women because it put us in check about what we think our overrated value is.
So again, right there, kind of downplaying, what Kevin did. Again, respect to Sister Shahrazad Ali. Again, I'll keep saying that throughout this video. I'm sure someone in the comments will be like, be quiet, be quiet, black male spirituality, and just talk. So but to say he wasn't successful, I mean, again, I think that is kind of disrespectful because he was. I think he impacted a lot of people. He helped several couples come together, black couples come together. He had his group, The Mix, and his message is still going forward now and waking people up. You have a lot of women now coming up talking like Kevin Samuels, talking influenced by Kevin Samuels. Again, there's some women who are just grifters, which that's a whole nother video I can get into. But to say he wasn't successful, I mean, I think the one thing that I guess wasn't as great is that he died so soon. He only had 3 years on this earth, really, speaking this truth. But I mean, you think about you think about religious figures, other important figures, and Kevin's not a religious figure, but you think about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was on this earth for 3.5 years, and then he was crucified, and now Christianity is a world religion. So but it would have been great to see Kevin, live longer. I mean, could you imagine if certain other figures got their life cut short the way he did? If Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. I mean, that would have been devastating to our people. I mean, he did what he could in the time he was on this earth. And again, I don't want to get too much off topic, but black men, this is why we need to take care of our health. If we are going to be the leaders in our community, the prophets and priests of our community, we need to be alive long enough so that we can have the biggest impact possible. But at any rate, the whole he's not successful. I understand why she's doing this because Kevin is kind of a controversial figure. She's an older lady now. Back in the day, she could be pretty harsh and strident in her points, but sometimes age does affect people in terms of calms people down, makes them a little more kinder, gentler, things of that nature. But let's continue the video.
Okay, and we think we have a greater value because we think that we are in charge of sex. Okay, and most men will just about do anything or go along with anything if they think that. Well, that's changing. Okay, that is not all completely the way it was. This is the thing I wanted to mention, and I don't usually talk about this.
So she's going to get into something important in a second, but I wanted to pause it right there. Gentlemen, pay attention to that. this whole thirstiness and wanting to hook up, even if it's for recreational use only, that's kind of feeding into the delusion a lot of women have. They think they're more valuable than they are. And I'm talking about low quality women. Great, there's a lot of good women. I'm not talking about those women. Those women don't need any validation to know the kind of women they are, and they're not delusional half the time. But, brothers, we need to really stop. I talk about this all the time. And, maybe some people say I'm depolicing, or, oh, you're just saying that because you ain't getting a lot. Again, I don't want to devalue myself by dealing with the wrong person. And I don't want the wrong person to get a ego boost of any kind. When I'm on social media and I read a woman's profile and, she's coming across very low vibrationally and negatively, I don't even want to like her pictures. I don't want to follow her. I don't want to message her, let alone try to hop into bed with her. She could be laying in my bed right now, just ready for me to do anything and everything I want to her. But, we have to say no. Say no to low quality women, brothers. But let's get into this because she kind of talks about some of the trends she is seeing, which, I agree with some of the stuff she's about to say, but I disagree with it at the same time.
Yes. When I say that we're living in trends, the messenger talked about when we get out of control, too savage, that we live in a beast life. Okay. Our younger people, that children of the future there, are living somewhat of a beast life, because the new trend now, and I only know about this because they put it out there in the public on the Instagram and the internet and on the Facebook and everything. One of the things that scientists say separates the humans from the animals is that humans mate face to face. Animals mate from the rear. Well, it's popular now that that's what they're all doing, mating from the rear and doing all kind of other distasteful things and calling it sex. That's a bad sign. Okay. There's a different connection, as we all know, of face to face than another kind of way. People are getting hurt. They're choking each other. They're spitting in each other's mouth, doing all kind of things that would never, ever have been considered as sexual pleasure. There's something wrong in that. I don't know how long they're going to be practicing that, and they're even doing oral sex in people's anus and their behinds, all kind of stuff, crazy stuff. And I'm talking about it because we need to know, and we need to start trying to teach something differently. Okay.
So I'll pause it right there. She's going to say more. I disagree with her on some of that. For one, I'd have to fact check, scientists talking about humans. The distinguishing thing between humans and animals is mating face to face versus behind. I mean, obviously humans do mate from behind as well. I mean, we have the capability of doing that. I think more of the issue is the context. All this whole hookup culture and hit it and quit it and finessing, or, some of the stuff you see with women just trying to be sex workers all the time. Obviously, I think there's issues with some of that. And I'll disclose my bias. For people who know me, I'm into the BDSM lifestyle. I've done some unconventional sexual things, some of which she's mentioned here, and some of which she hasn't mentioned here. And, again, that's scary to a lot of people, but I think the context matters. I don't engage with women that I don't respect or I don't think are good people. And I don't engage with women who don't think I'm a good guy. So, I mean, my goal is to find someone who I can be long term with, and someone who I can be safe enough to do these wild and crazy things. I can't just do this with anybody out here on the street. Me too is a thing. So, again, I understand where the sister's coming from, and there is some things that I think do kind of cross the line and are a little degrading in certain ways. There's this whole trend, especially in the lifestyle I'm in, with consensual non-consent, where basically you do a scenario role play where you're forcing yourself on a woman. I think that's disgusting. I don't want to shame people or anything, but I think that's disgusting. I think it's dangerous. And uh, gentlemen, I do not think you should indulge a woman who wants to do that. Now, being a little rough, maybe busting out some ropes and paddles if that's your thing. I think there's a way to do that and be safe. But, I think, pretending like she's not agreeing to what you're doing, I think that's disgusting and I think it's dangerous. So, no disagreement on that. Some of the stuff with, you know, going to the bathroom on people, I mean, that's a little disgusting in my opinion. Or if you're eating, you're eating somebody's behind, and it ain't clean. I think that crosses the line. But I don't think that's the heart of the matter, and I have to disagree with the honorable sister on that point. I understand where she's coming from as a Muslim woman. I know she quoted the Prophet Muhammad there, but I disagree with some of that. I think what's more important is this whole using each other thing, and this whole just being promiscuous with no plan. It's all fun and games, but what happens with the rest of your life? What happens when it's time to make a family? What happens when you get too old to work? So again, I think there are certain issues that are legitimate, but I don't agree that the act of certain things are necessarily always bad. It may not be her cup of tea and may not be in line with her religion, and I respect that. But I don't think that's the main issue from my perspective.
That's not no love. That's not no showing of love. That's something crazy. And the girls are accepting it. The young women are being choked, or somebody spitting in their mouth, all kind of insanity things, and they calling it sex. That ain't no sex. I don't know what kind of beast life that is, but
Well, it is sex if you're having sexual intercourse and you're doing oral sex and other stuff with that. Sometimes it's not sex. Sometimes it's just kink. Like if you're just spanking a girl or tying her up, that's non-sexual. But to say that women are just accepting it, I mean, women don't do things that they don't want to do. And again, I think that's a dangerous perspective, especially in light of Me Too and false allegations. Women want to do these things, not all, and obviously you should ask for permission before you do it and talk about what you're going to do, what she's okay with, what you're okay with. But to say, oh, they're just accepting it is like, sister, no, a lot of them like that as well. Even good quality women, maybe even women who are part of your religion like that. When they're not at the mosque and covered up with the hijab and everything, and it's just them and their husband. You don't know what they get up to. The Prophet Muhammad was probably getting up to some stuff. Peace be upon him. I don't mean to disrespect the Prophet Muhammad. For any Muslims listening, peace be upon him. But we're all human beings. We do have an animal side. We do have a base side. Now, our goal is to make sure that doesn't take control of us and cause us to make bad decisions in terms of people we deal with. But we do have that side of ourselves. And this kind of ties into what she says later about Black men being God. We are primarily physical beasts. We have the capacity for spirituality. And I shouldn't say beasts, we're physical beings primarily. We're not gods, we're not angels. So we have that side to us. We have that side where we go to the bathroom and release excrement, which, isn't the most, you know, pleasant thing to think about, but it's part of who we are as human beings. You know, we do have a primal instinct. It's just a matter of keeping it in control and being responsible about it. So, at any rate, we'll continue.
that's another trend that I hope passes, because that's taking it
It's not going to.
to such a low level. Where can it go after that? And how long then will generations think that that's affection? So
And right there, and again, I hate that I keep stopping. That's called a slippery slope fallacy. As we speak the truth, we have to be logical because the outside world is going to pick apart our logic anywhere we can, take things we say out of context. That's part of the reason why how we say things is just as important as what we say. And that's my agreement with the good sister here. But but yeah, slippery slope fallacy, because the implication is like, oh, it'll get into inappropriate things with kids, and some of that is happening. But let's not pretend like, adults doing certain things that are unconventional is going to lead to a bunch of other things that I think most of us agree are horrible. So slippery slope, sister. We can't be doing that.
That's a very bad sign, I think. And that the young women think that that's natural, as I said, that they going along with this, and that the men are tiring really of them at all. They don't even want to look at them.
And see that issue, those issues are separate. Because again, like I said before, a lot of these ladies like to do it. Even good quality women, like a little roughness and spiciness in the bedroom. Some of them, they're about it's only with my husband. So keep that in mind as well. But the real issue is guys intentionally going after low quality women just because they think they're going to have some freaky time. Like I saw a guy post on social media, he pretended to like a girl he couldn't stand just because he liked eating her behind and all the other crazy stuff they were doing, getting hot and heavy. And then he got to his breaking point and dropped her. That's more the issue, that kind of stuff. Women being low quality and then men trying to use women they know to be low quality just to meet their base urges. Again, that's the base side getting out of control. I think that's more the issue.
And I'm concerned about that, and I think we all should be.
I just wanted to touch on the Kevin Samuels thing one more time. Do you believe he helped bring interest into your works with a new generation?
No, I don't think so. I think it just it was so personally, individually critical. I don't think that that ever helps. I think you have to be civilized and you're asking and telling. And I don't think that that kind of overly critical criticism of an individual, each person individually, no, that does not help, especially publicly. As I said, we already got low self-esteem. And that don't mean build us up on some false bravado. I don't mean that. But I mean, we just have to be more gentle with each other. We are damaged creatures.
Let me reword it. I apologize. I wanted to add.
So I'm going to get to her contradicting herself in a second. But I agree. I mean, we do have to be very careful, especially when you're talking to someone directly. There's a way to speak truth in love and respect. But, sometimes you do need to be firm with people. Sometimes, there's situations, I'm sure people you can relate to this. You have a family member who's dealing with, drugs or alcohol. Sometimes you need to set an intervention and say some tough things to people. Sometimes you have to tell people you're going to kill yourself or end yourself. I'm sure YouTube will ding me for that. You're going to hurt yourself if you continue down the path you're on. And I think that's a lot of times what Kevin was saying. Again, the sound effects and the stuff he did for comedic purposes, again, I don't know if all of that was necessary. And then, for the good sister here, Sister Shahrazad Ali, I mean, you look at some of her old clips, sometimes she could be a little heavy with people. I mean, sometimes even the most kindest people need to be heavy when they tell the truth. Jesus was heavy. He called the Pharisees snakes and vipers because that's what they were and that's what they were doing. But he also showed grace and mercy to the people who were receptive. And, growing up, I was taught that Jesus was sad when he had to say some of the hard things he said. But, sometimes the things need to be said. But again, her pretending like Kevin Samuels didn't bring attention to her work, and she makes a comment. It's like, oh, they don't really encourage reading. There's audiobooks now. And it may be not necessarily your books, but I can assure you, some people have looked up old speeches of hers because of Kevin Samuels and because of people like Tommy Sotomayor, which it'd be interesting to hear her views on him. If I had a chance to interview the good sister, I would ask her opinion of Tommy Sotomayor. But let's continue.
X, do you think his work brought more attention to your book with a new generation, with a younger generation that probably didn't know about
I'm
your
not
work?
sure. See, the other thing is, remember, we're in a society where they're teaching against reading. All right, everybody either want to hear it or see it. So reading is not as popular. So I'm not sure if it worked that way. My sales have been impacted on a lot of things. That must be 50 books out called The Black Man's Guide and The Black Woman's Guide. So many people have copied, my title. So I'm not sure it worked that way. I'm still selling books, and he's still, I'm sure, there's still brothers out there now trying to take his place. So that's just the way that turned out. Uh, he got me, I think, more attention for me, toward me as a writer, as a sister.
I mean, which is it, Sister Shahrazad Ali? And this is with all due respect to someone of your stature and your age. I respect my elders, but did he get attention to your books or did he not? How did he get attention to you as a writer, but not attention to your books? I mean, that doesn't make sense. My inner lawyer is coming out right now, so I'll tone that down. But yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that. I mean, we live very busy lives. It is hard to sit down and read books, especially if you're a professional working person. I read all day with my day job. If anything, I'll listen to audiobooks. I don't know if any of her work is on audiobooks. I'll probably look it up right after this video because I would be interested to listen to her books. The other thing I'll point out is, you could talk about Kevin being harsh, but I mean, there's certain things that the good sister said that people thought was a little harsh, like implying that, black men should be able to, physically punish their women, which, that could be a little shaky for some people. It's like, what are you actually saying, good sister? Kevin didn't talk about that. So again, I know that was taken out of context, but it's just like none of us are perfect. That's why we shouldn't condescend to people and to each other, especially if we're talking about those of us trying to do good, trying to preach right, trying to preach truth. I mean, because we all don't perfectly convey our messages. So anyway, I'll continue. I wanted to put my 2 cents in on that part.
But I know my place in the world, and I'm just a woman. That's not an insult. That's not a put down. But I am not a man. See, God is a man. You represent God, and I tell black women the closest you may ever get to God is being with a black man, because he looks more like you than me. And we have so many things out here affecting our respect and image of self. That's the other reason black women don't want to believe that the black man is God, because they think the black man they know ain't nothing, and that y'all ain't nothing, so there ain't no way you could be God. In fact, you have some brothers who have surrendered, and they walking around talking about the black woman as God. Some more absurd, silly nonsense
When did
that
that
we
start?
waste our time on.
When did that start?
So let me stop it right there. They're going to continue, but no one is God. No human being is God. I'm not God. White people aren't God. No one's God. We're human beings on this physical plane of existence, on this planet called Earth. I don't know if there's other beings on other planets or not. I wouldn't doubt it. But, we live on this physical plane. We walk the earth, we travel in vehicles, whether they be cars, airplanes. That's not God. Now we have the ability to connect with spirit, connect with spiritual beings, be influenced by spiritual beings, and we can do great works. You think about, look at the Bible, the Quran, or other books. There have been humans throughout history from different religious traditions who have supposedly, and again, I don't doubt it myself, but I know maybe some atheists or agnostics could be listening, but who've done great works influenced by the spiritual world. They were connected to the spiritual world and they were able to do great things. Same thing, if you believe in the law of attraction and you meditate and you manifest things, that stuff is real. That can happen. That doesn't mean we're all powerful and we can have everything we want and warp reality in whatever way we want. I mean, there'd be serious consequences if we did, but we're limited human beings. We're imperfect. We do have base instincts. We get hungry, we get tired, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can be a great person. You can have a deep and profound connection with the spiritual world. You don't have to be a god to feel good about yourself. So, I mean, if you're thinking you're a god, actually will cause you more problems because people who think that they're God have tended to do bad things throughout history, and even today.
This notion that the black woman was God.
Well, they just have surrendered. It can't be me, because I can't do nothing. I ain't got nothing and look like she more successful or whatever. And so we just decide then she must be God. That's what a man do. I don't know no man that would decide that. And I try to correct every brother I run into about that. They think they complimenting me by saying the black woman is God, but I'm not God, and I don't want that job. Okay, I got enough.
Now, the good sister, I would add to what she said. Um, I think some of that's true. This whole erroneous perspective that black women are doing so much better than black men. I mean, there's a lot of great professional black men. The stats Kevin used to talk about. 51%, 61% of men are single and childless. Childless. I can't talk today. 51% are in the middle class. I've seen stats that show that about a quarter of black men are in the upper class. So, that's nonsense and, indoctrination. But I think the other part of it is, again, it kind of touches on what she says. Again, we let our base desires and urges and our thirstiness, which can lead to simping, putting women on a pedestal because you want a relationship so bad that you're just willing to just bow down to a woman, get on your knees and beg, essentially. I think that's more the issue. It's like, oh, you're such a goddess. You're such a goddess. I mean, they're not calling unattractive women goddesses. It's usually some baddie chick, looking good on Instagram or wherever else. Or, if they get up to some kinky stuff in the bedroom, some chick that's clad in leather, you know, using whips and stuff and face sitting and all sorts of things. That's the context where that comes from. That's more men being kind of thirsty for sex and overly hungry for it. I think that's where that's coming from.
Enough to do. I don't want to be. I don't want that responsibility, and I don't have that power.
I wanted to touch on before we get to the last two questions. I want to touch on something you said where you said black women they don't see much in black men, right? And from personal experience, what I noticed that even if you're I don't know these terms they use, highly performing, even if you're just a great guy, right? They still can't see the greatness in you.
They still what?
They still struggle to see the greatness in you if you're a
Oh
great
yeah.
person.
Well, as I said, that's we've been all taught against each other so hard. We have to talk more. Now that's one thing Kevin did. He got more black men speaking out about their dissatisfaction. Well, dissatisfaction produced change. One of the changes has been more of our men are going offshore seeking other women who they say can know how to act more like a woman.
So I'm glad she gave Kevin credit right there. I mean, I think that was a good show of respect to a man who respected you and pointed people to your work. But yeah, I mean, what she was saying, and she's going to get into the whole going overseas thing, and that kind of thing. But I mean, there is a lot of hostility that both black men and black women have stoked against each other. And the larger society, the people who don't mean black people well, white supremacists and other folks, want us to be at each other's throats and angry and hateful of each other. But I think the other part too is, this is the problem with low vibrations. When you are consumed with bad and negative, you don't see positive. You don't see good. You don't even see greatness in certain people. A lot of young women, unfortunately, and it's not all, but there's a lot of young women, and I've seen this in my life as a fairly high value man. And again, that's not tooting my own horn. Good looking man, stays in shape. Women who dabble in mess kind of have a hard time seeing that, and it's vice versa. There's a lot of brothers who, if it weren't for the woman's looks and our natural, or even just our natural desires for women, a lot of us men wouldn't see the good in certain women. I mean, obviously, being visual is a natural thing to men, but other than that, it's just, when you're blinded by negative, and sometimes that's due to making your own bad decisions that have led you to get into bad experiences. When you're so blinded, it's hard to see the good. It's hard to discern good in someone. It's hard to make a good decision about the right kind of person. So that's why we need to throw off the anger, the hate, the aspects of low vibrations, aspects of if you're a Star Wars fan, the dark side. And, she's going to say something later that's going to, make me talk a little bit more about that, but we'll continue.
All right. It's like we'll tell a man, everything you do, why don't you act like a man? When you all have never challenged our womanhood, you all have never told us, why don't you act like a woman? It's not in you. But we'll tell you real quick, why don't you act like a man? Well, how do we know what a man act like? Most of us didn't have a father. We didn't have a model. We only saw fathers on television and in movies. And they gave us certain ideas that white people have that they themselves don't live up to. Okay? Their fatherhood is built on them being able to provide. And they kept you from being able to do that so that you could not have that. And that's another reason I say that we have to teach our men how to be fathers, how to deal with babies, how to change a diaper, how to do all of those things.
So again, I'll pause. And again, I keep pausing, but there's so many things to unpack, with every sentence she says, really. So it's really tough for me. But yeah, the whole, act like a man and all that kind of thing. It I don't know if I fully agree with the whole men have never told women to act more like women or act more ladylike, because I think we have. The issue is that the mainstream media doesn't support men saying that kind of thing. But it will support women, especially Black women, unfortunately, to tear us down and to challenge our manhood. So again, this is another reason why, Kevin was so important, because he really shined a light on the fact that just like there are men who are below standard, there are women who are below standard and who aren't quality. So, again, I agree with her to a certain extent, but I think there's some additional context there, which I'm sure she would understand where I'm coming from if she were to speak to me. But let's continue on.
You made that. That's your idea. So you need to be a part of how it's going to be reared and how to handle it. Many of our brothers now ending up with their children because many of our women, sometimes they have them, and then after 5 or 6 years, they decide, I don't want to be no parent no more. And so they giving the child away to the father. And then sometimes the fathers are trying to get their children, and you all have a very difficult time because the enemy don't want you to be able to do that, be involved with that, because they are so used to pretending that they're on our side. They're not on our.
And, again, that's interesting. On one breath, she was talking about, what men need to learn. And there are men who do need to learn how to be fathers and take care of children, rear children. But I mean, the fact that, a lot of women who for many years have been getting custody, a lot of them are still just stuck on hot girl summer, wanting to party, wanting to flirt with other men, that they're like, oh, I don't want this kid. He can go live with his father. you know they don't pay child support, which is a whole nother issue. I mean, some do, but there are certain women who they'll let you have them, but they're not going to sign over legal custody, or they're not going to pay child support. I was just watching a video from Kevin Samuels the other day where that was the case. So interesting points to think about for sure.
My side. The white woman is not on our side because we also think that she's nicer. It's better to deal with her. That's his mother. She not on our side.
I was gonna ask.
That's his mama.
There is the idea floating around, guys. I know interracial dating for numerous reasons. So I'm not saying every black man with a white woman has a views the white woman as superior. I don't want to say that. I don't know if that's the case, so I won't say that publicly, right? But there is an idea circulating that white women are nicer than black women.
Well, they are, because they haven't gone through what we have. They don't have the history we have. Why shouldn't she be nice?
So again, I understand what the good sister's trying to say. And again, don't get me wrong. I recommend everybody watching this video to check out Shahrazad Ali. She does have some good stuff. But again, there's something subtle there, because it's like that gives an excuse. There's not, we can't use racism and the, issues we've gone through as a people as an excuse. There have been other groups of people who've gone through bad things as well, some of which are comparable to what we went through. And even talking about us, we did a better job of having more intact families during slavery and closer to slavery. We had better, more intact families during Jim Crow segregation. They were going through harder things than we are now. People my generation, I'm a millennial, and then generations that are younger, Generation Z, we have a lot less room to have excuse for why we can't act right, both men and women. Obviously there are challenges, but as a human being, it's up to you to overcome your challenges and do the right thing and do the best thing you can do. So again, I understand what she's saying. The whole white woman thing, again, I think it depends on the woman. A lot of us brothers, we're so frustrated with black women that we pretend like we can just dispense with all of our game, all of our discernment when we go to other countries or we deal with white women. We forget that Karens are a thing. Karens will date black men and harm them and probably falsely accuse them in certain cases. There are low quality people all over the place. I understand, as black people, we're concerned, and for me, I'm concerned first and foremost about black men. But, really at the end of the day, the core of these issues is low vibration versus high vibration. Or, from the perspective of Crimson Cure, shout out to Crimson Cure, it's the 10 life values versus the lost value system that transcends racial considerations. Now, the loss value system has been an effective tool that white supremacy has used against our people. But again, it's been used against a lot of people. The powers that be, who control things behind the scenes, who control the media, and it's not a race thing there, because I know we have conspiracy theories about certain groups of people, which, there's truth in some of it, but, it's a bigger issue. All these negative things are being perpetrated on all people. Now, obviously, as black people, our concern is our own, just like other groups of people, their concern is their own. But, it transcends the racial side of things. You know, like, radical feminism and certain modernism has affected all cultures on this planet. It's affecting other cultures probably less severely than us, just given our specific circumstances in this country, and our brothers and sisters in Africa, different experience as a result of what they've gone through. But it's affecting everybody. All these negative, toxic, low vibrational ideologies are affecting the whole planet. That's why I say at the end of my videos, low vibrations are at an all-time high. It's not just in the black community that they're at an all-time high. They're across every community. you know it affects people in government. Our government can't get its crap together because of low vibrations that manifest themselves in politics, whether you're talking about radical leftism, radical rightism. It's affecting everything: relationships, business, dating, marriage, families, brothers, sisters, friends, everything.
I remember one time I was in New Orleans doing a program, and we came out of this restaurant, and there was a white woman sitting on the curb, middle-aged white woman, and she was begging for change and everything. I said, I'm not giving you nothing. You a white woman, you got everything at your disposal that you could have in this country, and you sitting out here begging. And I told my party, don't give her nothing. I said, you all just need to get up and go somewhere and clean yourself up and be white, and you'll get something going, all right? If not, if one of these stupid Negroes will get with you, but you got to clean up and do better than that. I say, but so she has certainly a better opportunity. Now, lower class white woman is not going to agree with that. She thinks she's having it as hard as black people. In fact,
Well, again, for one, that was very low vibrational, sister. That's not becoming of someone of your stature and of your standard of righteousness and of the righteousness you preach. I understand, and again, the good sister went through probably Jim Crow and segregation, but we don't need to stoop to that toxic level. Let the white supremacists be the evil ones. We don't need to be evil back. Now, we should protect ourselves and be careful, defend ourselves, defend our people, but we don't need to be hateful and spiteful just like other people. We'll be so, and again, I think this is one of the issues in our community. We're so stuck on being angry at our situation in this country and angry at white supremacy and all that. We can't get ourselves together. There's people talk about white supremacy all day and being all angry at white people and all this other stuff. But, they got kids out of wedlock. They're not taking care of their family. They're beefing with their homeboys, some of whom are pro-blacks just like them. All this anger and hate is counterproductive. Even in my own life, there's a point in time where, I was kind of recovering from a very bad situation involving a white woman. I was so angry about that it was straining my ability to focus on a good relationship I was having with a black woman at the time. I was letting my anger towards bad white people distract me from cultivating something good with a black woman, a good black woman. So, all this hate and, the fact you told your, entourage not to give her anything like that, that's so disgusting and condescending. And we want to be the better people. If you want to say we're God or whatever the case may be, let's act like that. God is merciful and loving even to a sinner, even to a blasphemer. Now, there's going to be a consequence if they don't repent. But, all this hate and vitriol and making assumptions, I mean, really, the system has hurt a lot of groups of people. Black people obviously were hurt by slavery and Jim Crow, but white people have been hurt by unfair employment practices, unfair business practices. They've been hurt just like we have by not making good decisions about marriage and family. And, so I mean, all of us have been hurt to a certain degree or another. Obviously, our concern is our people, but, to have that level of vitriol, it's not necessary. It doesn't help us as a people. And, and one of the things it will do is it'll turn off people who, we could have gotten to listen to them about some of the legitimate grievances that we have about discrimination and racism, because it's like, well, you guys are hateful too. I'm not going to listen to you. Y'all are just woke. Y'all hate white people, So it's not helping anybody. And, all this hate, it might be fun and games to beat your chest, but if we're not careful, some of these white folks will get drawn in by the white supremacists and a race war could happen. With all the social turmoil that's going on in this country, a race war, a civil war won't help any of us. It's not going to help black people because we will be destroyed. That's one of the things with Martin Luther King. He talked about loving your enemies and being peaceful and that kind of thing, because he knew we would be decimated if it became a black versus white thing or us versus other races in today's world. So I have to disagree with the good sister there.
She think we the reason she have it hard, all right? But it's really not like that. That white privilege that they talk about is real. That's very real. And
But the problem is it's a small percentage of white people who really benefit from it. And let's not forget there was a time in history where, white people from other places, before they were fully assimilated as white people, went through some bad things. Again, not as bad as slavery. They weren't enslaved like us. Indentured servitude is not the same as slavery. We'll be perfectly clear on that. But yeah, so, and again, again, it's like that shouldn't even be our concern. If you have your issues with white people or you're cautious of them, I mean, they're not even our concern. Why do we need to go at them? Why don't we focus on building ourselves up and doing the best we can?
we practice a little of it with each other on the lighter skins and the darker skins.
You know, my mother, a very light-skinned woman, went through a lot of horrible treatment by her family members growing up because they were jealous. So this whole light skin privilege and all, it's like, see, that's the issue with these radical left wing, socially Marxist ideas. Look it up. I don't talk a lot about politics on this channel. They're destructive because they taint everything. Those type of ideologies won't just divide us from white people and other races. They'll divide us against each other. Same thing with all this nonsense about tethers and, black Americans versus black people from other places. It's nonsense. It's destructive. And we need to put that stuff away.
We ate every idea they fed us. We ate it. Even though it was all against self. They taught us to want that. And we still continuing to do that now. We have learned to practice the technology they practice. And so we have distrust of each other. You're going to trick me or I'm going to trick you. Just all kind of nonsense that we cannot dig up out of it until we give them their God back. We can't do it. It's just.
Well, the whole tricking thing, again, that goes back to The fact that we as Black people just tend to use each other, especially in the context of dating and relationships. Men want to use women for physical stuff, for freaky stuff they want to do. Women want to use men just for money and be gold diggers, be sugar babies, and all that kind of nonsense. So yeah, it's tricking each other, for sure.
Just impossible. You can't hold on to everything that they stand for and then say you're going to make a change, because everything that they stand for is designed to destroy us.
And using our standards based on their standards, I think, is also a big.
Because they're not the
no.
same. They're not the same. Your nature's not the same as his. We keep pretending that they're human and have the natural feelings of sympathy and everything. They don't have none of that. It's not in them. You have it in you.
Again, stooping to their level. Again, we don't necessarily have the institutional power, historically speaking, certainly not. But, to dehumanize people, that's where all of this started. It just so happened that it happened to us in a very particular way in this country, over 400 years of slavery and discrimination. But that kind of thought is destructive and toxic. And again, it's not going to help us as Black people. We beat our chests and get so angry about white people talking about how they don't have melanin and therefore they don't have sympathy. But we're out here killing each other. We are ending each other's lives, using each other for sex, breaking up our homes, whether it's a woman breaking up a home or a man breaking up a home. This anger towards white people and vitriol is not helping us. It's not. I wanted to do a whole video on that at one point. Again, I respect the good sister and where she's coming from. She's experienced a lot that I haven't, but I have to disagree. I have to use discernment. Just because there's a woman who's a good sister, who's a good woman, who's teaching truth, who's exposing lies, that doesn't mean you turn off your brain and just listen to whatever she says. How much more? You have a great woman like this who's saying things that are not very helpful and feeding into some things that she claims to preach against. How much more do we have to be careful about women just out here, your basic everyday woman on social media, at the club, at the bar? We can't turn our brains off. It doesn't matter what color she is. It doesn't matter what religion she is. It doesn't matter if she's a hyena or a supposed lioness, to use Crimson Cure's terms. For women, it doesn't matter if he's a broke dude on the block or a high value man. We have to keep our discernment on. And negativity is destructive no matter who it comes from. It's destructive to other people. It's destructive to yourself. Being angry, because I know how it is. I told you there was a time where I was really angry because of something a white woman did. And I, had some prejudice towards white women in general. And that was just tearing me up inside. And I didn't need to. When you're angry and you have hate, it tears you up inside. White supremacists are miserable people, especially overt ones. They're miserable people. Some of them living in the backwoods. They're so busy hating Black people, they live in squalor and trailer parks. Again, no disrespect to people who live in trailer parks, or, just like there's no disrespect to people who live in the inner city or in lower income areas. But, the point is that, when you hate other people, even if you don't care about other people, we don't care about white people. Let's say that we don't care. It's not helping us. It's not making us love each other better. It's not helping us make intact families. It's not helping us speak the truth. It's not helping us stop all this stupid beef. We're trying to speak the same message, in the Black manosphere and Black male spaces, but we just beefing with each other. Yeah, we have our disagreements on things, but all this beef and being angry at Black women or being angry at white women is not going to fix it, brothers. It's only going to hurt us.
Nobody never saved nobody but you. And you have been beat down and so discouraged that it's very difficult. But I want you to know that you will be the winner. You are the original man. God didn't make everybody and then make you. He made you first, and everybody was modeled after you on some level. That's real talk. That ain't to soothe your ego. These are actual facts that if we could get our men to understand and accept. And I know it don't look like it now. I know some of the guys in the gutter. I know some of them in prison. Some of them on drugs. Some of them out here acting ignorant. Some of them pretending to be a woman. But that does not change the foundation of who you are and who made you, who is on your side, and who will pay the enemy back for what he has done to us.
Again, I understand our main concern is our own, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And we all have our own families, our own communities, all that. But I mean, whether you believe in Genesis that all men came from two people, Adam and Eve, or you believe in science which says that human beings evolved in Africa and then from Africa spread out around the world. I know there's some scientists saying that that may not be true, but wherever the case may be, we're all human beings. Now we have our own differences and unique interests, and on this channel my interest is making Black men more righteous, more high vibrational, more positive, and making decisions in alignment of that, with that. And again, shout out to the good sister. I disagree with her on some things, but she definitely spoke a lot of truth in her day and has made a bigger impact than a lot of people. You know, I'd be privileged to make the impact that she made. So check out Shahrazad Ali. She has some good stuff. Keep your brain on, because not all of it's positive, not all of it's high vibrational, and not all of it will necessarily help us as a people, but there's good stuff there. At any rate, that's the end of this video, everyone. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. I'd like to get this message out even further. That's part of the reason why I'm doing these reaction videos, because these are popular videos people are talking about and gives me a platform to make the points I'd like to make. But at any rate, until next time, remember, low vibrations are at an all-time high in this world. Stay high vibrational, brothers. Namaste and peace to everyone.